Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Welcome to the sound of suspense. Welcome to the fear you can hear. Even before Phoenicians first sailed out of the Mediterranean and opened up the seven seas to mankind, the rolling waters of the world have boiled from their depths some of the greatest stories of adventure, romance, and mystery. And of all the stories dredged up from old Davy Jones' locker, I think my favorite is the strange and seemingly insoluble puzzle of what happened to the Annabella. How best to start the story? Oh, yes, of course, why not? Let's read from the log of the ship that found the Annabella, becalmed in the doldrums. August 7th, 1865. Log of the Penguin, Captain Brisket commanding. No wind again this day as we drive through the doldrums, moving by paddle and steam to find becalmed a merchantman named Annabella. No answer to repeated hails. Sent Mr. Bascom to board her. His report as follows. Not a living soul aboard. The boat's still snug in the davits. The captain's table freshly set for 6. The crew's meal warm in the galley. All shipshape. The log records an uneventful voyage with no clue as to why she should have been deserted. Not a living soul aboard. Not even a rat. What can be the answer to the mystery of this ill-fated ship? I cannot even guess. I fear no one will ever know. Our mystery drama, Sea Fever, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Ian Martin and stars George Matthews and Brett Morrison. The Annabella set sail from Charlestown Harbor on the 13th day of July, 1865. Her captain was Josiah Adams, a huge and forbidding giant of a man. And all the rest on board were as choice a crew of cutthroats, thieves, and murderers as you could set between bulkheads. There was one woman aboard and 19 men, including the cook and 2 passengers. And the mood of all of them was ugly. In the forecastle, the bosun led the grumbling.
I tell you, Briggs, I saw 'em. 6 of 'em, running down the after hawser like old Nick was after 'em. 6 of 'em, Briggs.
I don't like it. When the rats leave a ship, it's a nasty sign.
I don't like much about this ship. 7 men on the crew shanghaied, no cargo aboard, and sailing on the 13th.
Still, the pay is good.
When we get it. If we get it.
Now, you don't think we're the owner aboard?
No, it ain't Mr. Ames that worries me. It's Captain Josiah Adams.
Huh?
Not much gives me a turn, but he does. I'm big, but he'd make twice of me. More like an ape than a man.
Strong as one anyway.
Yeah.
Or like a bull, as you might say, if the liquor hasn't rotted his vitals. He's got a scowl on him like the colic was at him.
Colic? There's no colic that's eaten him. You ever seen him without his cap?
Huh. How often does a forecastle hand see a captain bareheaded? What do you mean?
It was when I piped Mr. Ames aboard. I went to his cabin to tell him the owner was on ship. He opened the door and I saw him. His head, bald as a white turnip, and his scalp as chewed up as the riptide off Chatham Light.
I don't get you.
They say he lost his last ship in Hudson Bay. He was washed ashore and found his way back to the States overland. The Indians caught him and...
You mean...
I scalped him.
And he lived.
You see?
So that explains his sour face. He mightn't be a bad master at that.
I wouldn't count on it. I think his heart is as black as his skull is white. Don't forget the rats. Here's 4 bells. Your trick at the wheel. Best not keep Mr. Peabody waiting.
Come on. What more do you know?
Why don't you ask the captain himself?
I think you're full of wind. I'd best get to the helm.
You're afraid to ask the captain, Briggs. Why don't you ask the mate? Just this way. Tell me, Mr. Peabody, where are we sailing with no cargo? Why did we have to Shanghai half a crew?
Take a leg there, Briggs. You're late. All bells sounded and gone. Stand to the wheel.
Aye, aye, sir, Mr. Peabody. Mr. Peabody, sir.
Yes?
It's like I was wondering to myself, as it might be, where are we headed for, sir?
Africa. The Gold Coast.
I knew it. I knew it in my bones.
You knew it? Why did you ask?
It's blackbirding. That's what it is. Slave trade, ain't it?
The slave trade is dead, I believe, Briggs.
In America, legally. But not in Brazil. They still paid fancy prices in Brazil. That's what it is. I might have known.
And if it is, would you object?
Me? Not if the pay is high enough. One question, sir?
Any further questions or answers you'll have to get from the captain, Mr. Ames, or his fellow passenger, Mr. Rogers. After you've stood your watch. They're in the cabin if you'd care to risk it.
Ah, sir. So it's blackbirding, eh? Just what Christopherson guessed.
Wine, Rogers? Sherry from Spain. Sharpens the appetite before dinner.
Something will have to wet mine. This miserable tub rolls like a horse in mud.
Well, you'll soon get your sea legs.
Small need of them I'll have where I'm going.
You'll need them to get there. To the Gold Coast, Mr. Rogers.
The Gold Coast. Heat and dust and flies and traffic in human bodies. Slave trader Rogers. A fine job for a fine gentleman.
Would you prefer a prison cell?
The past is dead.
I stole from you and was caught. You let me choose whether to rot in jail in poverty or in Africa in luxury. I chose the second. Now, in heaven's name, let's forget the first.
Gladly.
More wine.
As much as you desire. There's no lack of it. More than enough for the voyage.
If the captain doesn't drink it.
Captain Adams prefers a lustier brew.
He must be the biggest man I've ever seen. And that head...
I wouldn't refer to it in front of him. He's tender about that scalp pit.
I wouldn't blame him. How he ever survived.
Tribute to his magnificent constitution. The man is all steel.
Not all.
What?
No, he has at least one soft spot.
You mean his wife?
Well, you know, the old legend is that it's bad luck to have a woman aboard.
A woman aboard? Are you trying to tell me that Mistress Adams is aboard this ship?
Why, of course. I thought you knew.
This is no place for a woman. Oh, damn it, Rogers, I won't have it. The woman must be put ashore. I want to talk to the captain immediately.
If you want the captain, you'll find him on the bridge.
How do you know?
My reputation as a ladies' man, Mr. Ames, remember? I make it a point to determine first when the lady is available.
You better be joking, Rogers. I wouldn't give that for your life if Captain Adams discovered you toying with his wife.
The wind's freshening, Captain.
That's God's worry and mine, Seaman, not yours. Hold it to the point.
Aye, aye, sir.
Captain Adams.
What is it, Mr. Ames?
A word with you, sir.
No.
What?
You heard me, and get off my bridge. No one sets foot behind the wheel except on my orders or invitation.
Dear me, sir, I take umbrage at your attitude.
Take what you will. My only concern when I'm on this bridge is the sailing of this ship. Now, will you take yourself off it? I'll meet you after the watch. 6 bells in the saloon, and you can have your word with me.
I'm afraid that's not good enough, Captain. You forget...
Good enough or not, it will have to serve. Now, will you go below, or do I have to throw you off bodily?
What time is dinner, cook?
Old Captain says 6 bills for you and Mr. Rogers and the mates. He and his lady will eat later.
What? They don't join us?
No, sir.
Really? Neither one?
No, sir.
Curiouser and curiouser. Why is this lady so afraid for us to meet her?
I couldn't care less. She won't be with us long enough to trouble about it.
Well, still, it's intriguing. Whitey, you've shipped with the captain before. Is it always like this when his wife is aboard?
Mistress Annabella has never sailed with the captain.
Ah, till this time.
And this time will be a short voyage.
Tell me, Whitey, what does the lady look like? Is she fair? Dark?
Whitey, you talk too much. This is the last time I warn you. Now hustle those old bones of yours to the galley and tend to your own affairs.
Aye, sir.
You want to know what my wife looks like, Mr. Rogers?
Oh, a natural curiosity, surely?
Then let me satisfy it. Once and for all, Annabella is as lovely as I am ugly.
Ah, and we are not to meet the lady?
No, we dine alone, tonight and always. One further word to you, Mr. Rogers. My wife is on board this voyage because I've decided that I will never go anywhere without her, nor will she go anywhere without me. We cling to ourselves, Mr. Rogers, and need no other companionship. I want you to understand this very clearly.
You need have no fears for your wife's privacy. For by tomorrow, I want her off this ship.
What?
I'm ordering you to turn about. You could have saved time and trouble had you let me tell you earlier on the bridge.
Turn about for where?
Back to port. I don't want your wife on board.
This voyage has begun. The course is set and it will not be changed.
May I remind you, Captain, that this is my ship.
This is my ship, Mr. Ames. My ship. From port to port. Your ship in the harbor, mine on the sea. My ship. Here I give the orders. Here I expect to be obeyed.
In the name of all that's reasonable, man, in view of our business, can't you see this is no place for a woman?
There's only one place for Annabella. My wife remains at my side.
But on a slave ship.
By my side, do you hear? By my side. Now, we'll hear no more of this. For by the living God, owner or not, I'll clap you in irons.
So began the voyage of the Annabella. Distrust and fear below and 'tween decks, with bad luck hoving in the shrouds like a storm gathering. Her bow cut the water with good speed, but it was towards the wake the crew's eyes turned. For the legend is that Davy Jones swims the wake of any vessel marked for his locker on the bottom of the sea. I'll return shortly with Act 2. For the first week, the Annabella sailed southeast by south, beating down towards the tropics. The crew still grumbled, and Rogers strove to drown the irresistible temptation to try and catch a glimpse of the captain's wife by drinking steadily. Two things served to deter him: the captain's wary vigilance and his fear of the sheer brute strength of the man. But once the ship veered due east and the mounting seas demanded more and more of the captain's time on deck, Rogers' courage and desire began to grow.
It's time to turn in.
Really? What time is that?
Oh, 8 bells. I'd take a turn on deck if the sun wasn't down. Instead, I'm for my bunk and a book. And you?
Well, the only book I care to open is the closed one that lies astern of us.
If you're wise, you'll steer clear of both the captain and his wife. And that Spanish sherry, it's stronger than it seems. Good night, Rogers.
Good night, Mr. Ames.
Oh, good evening, Captain. Off for the bridge.
It's making up some dirty weather out. I won't sleep much this night. Batten down tight, Mr. Ames. We may be taking some seas. Are you now for bed, Rogers?
No, Captain, I'm not quite finished the bottle.
I'd take it with me to my bunk if I were you. You'll be safer on your back when the swells begin to lift.
Aye, aye, Captain. But you'll bring us through safe and sound, won't you?
I won't leave the bridge till I know all's secure. I want you to sleep sound this night, Rogers. Who mans the wheel, Mr. Peabody?
As it, sir. Soundest hand we have.
And the second mate mans the bridge?
Aye, aye, sir.
Good enough. Follow me aft.
Right, Captain.
Here. Help me to move this hatch. Here. That's well enough. Now batten down tight when I've dropped through. Make sure she's watertight.
Aye, aye, sir.
Who's that? Who's there? Oh, Josiah. I thought you were gone to the bridge.
I intended you to think so, Annabella. Disappointed to find me back so soon?
Disappointed? No. But how did you come back?
Through the stern hatch.
But why?
I had my reasons. You're sure you're not disappointed that I returned?
No, dear.
You don't find it lonely shut in here in the cabin?
Well, sometimes. I'd like to go on deck and feel the fresh, salt breeze on my face.
And meet the crew or the passengers, perhaps?
Perhaps. At least the passengers. The owner of the ship and... Mr. Rogers, isn't it?
You know his name.
Whose name?
Rogers. You said it just now. How did you know his name?
But you've mentioned it to me yourself, Josiah. How else would I know?
And you love me, don't you?
Of course, Josiah.
And you'll never leave me?
Never.
Oh, forgive me, please, my dearest. You mustn't mind my jealousy. At Rogers, I see that look in his eyes. A hunger. A burning hunger for the sight of a woman and the feel of her body beneath his hands. Annabella, you knew his name. If you've been deceiving me...
I've never even seen the man. How can you accuse me of ever forgetting I'm your wife? How can... What is it?
Someone's coming to the cabin. Who is it?
I don't know.
Who is it?
Josiah, what's in your mind? Whoever it is, I swear
Go in the inner cabin.
But you...
Do as I say.
Very well, Josiah.
Mistress Adams, are you alone? Come, I know you are. I saw the captain off to the bridge for the night. Will you allow me to introduce myself? Thomas Rogers, gentleman, at your service. Can I persuade you to share tonight's vigil and join me in a glass of sherry? Oh, how kind of you. The sight of a pretty face.
A pretty face, Rogers?
Captain Adams.
Mine was not the face you expected to see.
Oh, you see, I thought you'd gone to the bridge.
So you did. Won't you come in?
Well, I think...
I said come in. You wanted to meet my wife, didn't you?
Well, yes, I must...
But not with me present, right?
Believe me, Captain, you do misunderstand.
Oh, no, Rogers. The misunderstanding is all yours. Your first sea voyage, you said. You should have said your last.
Oh, no, in the name of
God, my wife. Do you hear me? Mine, and no one shall touch her but me. No one will take her from me. No one.
Josiah, what happened? I heard... Oh, you killed him.
I should have snapped his neck like a chicken, but I wanted him to suffer.
But how could you? He was nothing to me.
No one shall have you but me.
Josiah, aren't you afraid?
Afraid?
The owner, the crew, everybody on board. When they find
They
out...
won't find out. No one knows he's here. He'd make very sure of that. His body will go out the stern window and into the sea. Men have fallen overboard on a rough night like this, especially drunken men. No one will know what happened to him except you and me. Trim her a little, Briggs. You're losing wind. Bring her nose up, man. God, Roger, you're a clumsy fool. Here, let me have the wheel.
Aye, sir.
Damn your eyes, you've lost way on her.
Sorry, Captain. The wind just veered a couple of points.
A sailor should smell a wind change.
Yes, but I
Save your excuses. You think you can hold her on this tack?
Just try me, Captain, sir.
Here, then. But keep her running, or by...
Captain Adams,
Yes, Mr. Ames.
I'd like a word with you below.
I can't leave the bridge.
Have I your permission to join you?
If you insist.
I've been searching for you, sir. I thought you were below.
Are you in my cabin?
Well, I knocked at the door. There was no answer.
Are you inside?
Of course not. It's not my custom to invade the privacy of others.
My wife is resting. I didn't want her disturbed. What is it you want?
Can we get out of this cursed wind?
I don't want to leave the wheel. This fool handles it like a landlubber.
You can trust me, Captain.
I wonder. Come aft to the taffrail, Mr. Ames.
Lead the way, Captain.
Over here on the lee side. You'll find the breeze a little more to your liking.
You know, I've been concerned since Mr. Rogers' mysterious disappearance last night.
Mysterious? A drunken sot who never found his sea legs? I warned him to steer clear of the deck. We did every mortal thing we could to find him.
Yes, I know. But without him now to leave as my agent on the Gold Coast,
Go on.
Well, it's deuced awkward. Without someone to recruit the next batch after we leave, there's little point in continuing on.
So, you think we should put back for America?
Or the nearest port where I can pick up a suitable man for replacement.
And perhaps put my wife ashore.
Well, since you mention it, I don't trust women too much in a business like this. They talk too much.
Just drop her at whatever port we touch.
Oh, I should be glad to make sure she's suitably settled, if you wish it.
If I wish it. Do you take me to be mad, Mr. Ames?
Mad? Why, believe me, sir, nothing...
Don't you think I see through your childish subterfuge? Leave Annabelle with you while I sail off to the ends of the earth?
No, please,
You too trying to steal her away from me. But you can't have her any more than Rogers could.
Captain, your wife means nothing to me.
I'll make sure she doesn't. Just as I made sure with Rogers.
Then it was you who...
Yes, I killed him with these two hands. And he disappeared. Just as you will.
No!
She's mine. Only mine. No one can have her but me. Into the sea, Ames, like Rogers. The sea can hold her secrets.
You all right, Captain? I thought I heard it...
Briggs, I told you to mind that wheel.
Well, I put the lash on it, sir. I thought I heard it cry, and
Said I could trust you.
Well, you can, sir. Where's Mr. Ames?
He's left. Why?
Well, it was just that I thought I heard a splash, and... Oh. You can trust me, sir. No, Captain. No, let go.
I wouldn't trust you with the wheel.
No, Captain.
I wouldn't trust you with my life.
Two more overboard. 19 men the Annabella sailed with, and now there were 17. Evil men, all of them. And Davy Jones swam the wake, waiting for them. For the captain, mad with imagined jealousy, had crossed the line of sanity. His obsession convinced him that he would know no peace till everyone on the Annabella was gone, save himself and his wife. I'll be back shortly with Act 3. The squall that blew up so suddenly on the Annabella proved to be a full-fledged hurricane that so fully occupied all aboard that there was no time to question missing men. Indeed, 2 other hands were blown out of the rigging or shaken loose before the Annabella found calm waters in the eye of the storm. Now again, discontent grows in the forecastle. The talk of a haunted ship resumes. The word mutiny is on everyone's lips.
Mr. Peabody, sir.
Oh, dinner so early, Whitey?
No, sir, it's mutiny.
What?
You heard me, sir. Mutiny, and about to break out.
Oh, Whitey, forecastle grumblings. You know it's all talk. They wouldn't dare.
Mr. Peabody, sir, I've been at sea, man and boy, for over 60 years. I know when it's talk. They say the ship is cursed.
Who says?
The bosun, sir, Christopherson. He says he saw the rats leave the ship before we sailed.
And for an old wives' superstition, he's ready to mute.
It's a great deal more than that. There's 5 men lost already.
I'm aware of that.
And most of all, it's the captain's wife. Bad luck with a woman aboard, particularly one that he keeps it away.
Well, do they expect the captain to parade his wife in front of common seamen?
No, sir, but they wonder.
Wonder what?
Some say she's a witch, that she's ugly as sin. And some say she's sick of the smallpox.
Smallpox?
It's aboard, sir, I'm feared.
Now you do allow me. I'd best have a look at it.
If he has it, he has it. I'll put him in the lazarette so it don't spread. The first thing is the mutiny, sir. That has to be stopped.
It has to begin first.
It'll begin unless the captain puts about.
You know how much chance there is of that. You of all people.
Yes, I've sailed with the captain before. I always found him a hard man, but a fair man. Not this voyage. Something happened when he brought his wife aboard. He's not the same man. I think the captain means to kill everyone, as he did the owner, and Rogers, and Briggs. Aye, and even Paget and Breen.
And we're blown out of the rigging.
Perhaps, sir. Perhaps the captain shook 'em loose by luffing.
Whitey, I think you're the one whose brains are scrambled. The men were lost overboard.
And the 2 passengers and Briggs.
Rogers fell over, obviously drunk. A wife took the other 2.
Then why is there not one mention of any of them being lost in the ship's log?
That's kept in the captain's hand. How could you know that?
He was writing in it. Here in the saloon last night. I was clearing the table. He left to get fresh ink, and I looked at it.
You can read?
In 60 years at sea, a man has a lot of time on his hands. I taught myself long ago.
You're sure of what you're saying?
On my oath, sir.
And by God, we'd better turn back. But how? I'll not risk my neck to the hangman's noose by mutinying.
Maybe if you was to speak to the captain's lady, she's the only one to influence him.
By damn, you're right, Whitey. Look, go hold off the crew till I see if the lady'll come to our help.
Aye, aye, Mr. Peabody.
Mistress Adams? Mistress Adams? It is Mr. Peabody, first mate under the captain. Can you hear me? Mistress Adams? I wouldn't disturb you, but the matter's urgent.
Mr. Peabody, may I ask what you are doing?
Captain, I wanted to talk to your wife.
My wife is indisposed. She's a poor sailor, and these last days have worn her out. How dare you disturb her?
I felt the matter urgent.
Attend me in the saloon, Mr. Peabody. First, let me see to my wife.
Aye, aye, sir.
Fortunately for my peace of mind and your welfare, you did not wake Mistress Adams. Now, why did you wish to see her?
Well, I didn't think you'd be willing to bring the ship about and head for home.
You're quite correct. I would not.
Feeling sure of that, I hope to enlist Mistress Adams' aid in persuading you to change your mind.
That was the only reason you chose to disobey my orders? That no one was to approach my wife?
What other reason, sir?
What other, indeed? Why would you be so anxious to turn for home, Mr. Peabody?
Because otherwise you face a mutiny, Captain.
Mutiny? Ha ha! Aye, damn. I could ask for nothing better than to cut down some of the forward scum. If I didn't wear my pistols at all times, I'd have a knife between my ribs before this. Mutiny, eh? And if they do, where do you stand, Mr. Mate?
I'm an officer, sir, but unarmed.
We'll remedy that. Fetch the second mate while I break out the arms. Then we'll muster the crew on deck and have this out.
Aye, aye, sir. What about the bosun?
Christopherson? No. I won't put firearms in his hands. The three of us can stand them off. Turn back, for a pack of lily-livered swine. I'll see us on the bottom first. Now, hark to what I tell you. This voyage can make us all rich. No owners split now. The profits are all ours. Sail on with me to Africa, and we'll all reap our reward.
Aye, Deep Sixth in Davy Jones's locker.
Speak for yourself, Mr. Christopherson, or all.
Or for both. This ship is cursed. Turn back and we'll make you captain.
You question my orders?
I say to hell with your orders. Mr. Peabody, sir, you know what's happening aboard this ship. We'll sail under you. Will you stand by us, sir?
Well, Mr. Peabody, where do you stand?
You see where my pistol is aimed, Captain?
At me. I suspected something like this when I found you below at my cabin. What would you do now?
I'll ask for your pistol, sir. I'm taking over the ship. But I guarantee you safe conduct home.
And my wife?
Your wife, too, of course.
And if I refuse?
Don't make me pull this trigger, sir.
That's just what I intend to do.
Don't come any closer!
You fool! Do you think I'd have handed you a loaded gun, knowing what was in your mind? Punishment for mutiny is death. Well, who's next? Who else wants to go on trial? I thought so. We'll smell the wind. The hurricane's coming back. To the rigging, all of you. And reef sail, or by heaven...
Reef them yourself, old baldhead. We've taken our last order from you, you murdering devil. Go back to your cabin and tell your
I
wife...
warned you, Christopherson.
Captain Josiah, some are armed. You should never have started this.
Never started it. It's just what I want. I want to be rid of you scum. Now I have my chance. Turn back to where I will lose Annabella forever. Never! Never! Not a puff of air, Whitey. In the wake of the storm, we'll lie here wallowing in the doldrums for God knows how long.
It's as well, sir. There's scarcely enough men left to sail the ship. And what there is dog-tired and half alive.
How many left?
Timmins died this morning. 4 killed in a mutiny. 1 more lost overboard. And Rudge, who died in a fall from the crow's nest. That leaves 5, sir.
Are they counting you, Whitey?
You're counting me.
5 of you still between us.
We're woeful short-handed, sir.
Yes.
I have a mess cooking for the crew. Can I sit him down to eat?
Huh? Eat? Oh, yes, of course. We must all eat. But first, serve all hands a double ration of grog, including yourself. I'll put a cask of rum out in the saloon.
Oh, sir.
Before you serve the crew, though, set the table in the saloon.
Yes, sir.
For 6.
For 6, Captain?
Certainly. The passengers, the 2 mates, myself, and my wife. Oh, at last, my darling, I can bring you to the table as befits a captain's wife, for they're all dead. We have nothing to fear from them anymore. Only 5 left. And they'll be gone soon, Annabella. You understand, don't you? It's all to keep you. To hold them from taking you from me, beloved. To hold you forever.
Josiah?
Anne, what are you doing on deck?
I'm looking for someone I once knew.
Who?
Josiah Adams. You?
But I'm here, Annabella. Here.
If only you were. The Josiah I knew.
I still am.
With the blood of all those men you killed on your hands.
They stood between us.
And the ones that were left, whose drinks you poisoned, who are dying now.
I had to kill them so we could be together always.
Don't you see? That's what's tearing us apart.
What were any of them worth to deserve to live? Blackbirders and thieves, riff-raff and murderers. They stand between us no longer.
Only one thing stands between us, Josiah. Why are you too blind to see?
No, Anne. No, I took you from America with me. We can be safe on the other side of the world. I can sail the longboat, just the 2 of us across the seas. We can scuttle the ship. And even if she were raised, no one would know her secrets. I've kept the log as though the voyage was calm and uneventful. Let them find the ship. We'll be gone. Tonight, at last, you can dine at the captain's table, as you always should have. And then we'll sail away.
No, Josiah. Search your heart, and you know it can never be. It's all a dream. It's all a dream. Never, never, never.
Anna, speak to me. Answer me.
Call for her, Captain. Call for her.
Whitey.
Don't be afraid. I'm still alive, but not for long.
I thought you were
a ghost. No. Only one ghost sailed with this ship.
Be quiet.
You can't scare me anymore, Captain. I'm dying. But your wife...
What about my wife?
She's dead, Captain.
No!
She always has been. Long before we ever sailed.
No.
Yes. Killed when the Indians got you. Dead for over 2 years.
No.
It had to be, Captain. It had to be. There's nobody in your cabin. Never has been.
Don't you think I didn't know? Didn't I see her die before my eyes? But I cheated death, and I cheated him of her. I took her away with me to the ship. I had to keep her alive. I had to.
And you had to kill all of us to do it. Because all of us, alive, were proof that she wasn't.
It had to be.
And you're alone at last. Or we'll be. All of us are dead save me. And I'm almost gone.
We'll be alone at last. and I can bring her to my table like the lady she is.
The table is set for 6, but there'll be only one of you there, Captain. Or 5. The dead don't mix with the living. There's only one way to find your wife again. Only one way.
The last of them. Annabella, we're free. Annabella, where are you? Anna, come to me. Annabella. Annabella. I know you died long ago in America, but you lived on in my mind, in my heart and in my blood. I thought if I took you with me to the sea, away from the land where I dug your grave, you could still live and breathe for me alone. There's only one way to find you at last. Oh, Annabella, forgive me, love, for all that I've done. I'm coming home to you.
"19 men sailed with the Annabella, and 19 men went to the bottom of the sea. The ship weathered all the storms. But then, a ship is a woman, which only goes to prove that on land or sea, the ladies have the better instinct for survival." Somewhere in the green depths, I wonder if the captain sits presiding at his table. But if he does, there's at least one empty seat. For Mistress Annabella died on land. She'll never come back to the sea, or him. Which seems fair enough, wouldn't you say? He didn't exactly deserve a happy ending. Our cast included George Matthews, Brett Morrison, Marion Seldes, Leon Janney, and William Redfield. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
Sound of better music. This is KIXI Stereo 96, Seattle.
CBS News. The gas is coming to 18 states that need it most, according to Energy Chief William Simon. He says a bonus allocation will be sent to the most severe shortage areas in March, a total of over 1.5 million barrels to be distributed in addition to the regular allotments. I'm Christopher Glenn, reporting on the CBS Radio Network. There are some indications that the bonus isn't as much as it may seem to the individual driver. New York State, for instance, will receive 2% more than its regular dole, and that works out to about a gallon a car more. Simon warned during the day that President Nixon intends to veto the emergency energy bill long in the legislating if the version which reaches him contains a provision to roll back the price of domestic crude oil. But the warning did not deter the Senate, which passed the measure with enough votes to spare to indicate a veto could be overridden. House action on the bill is expected without delay. The Energy Office has also issued a clarification of its controversial policy on service stations' treatment for regular customers. The office said its official line on giving everybody, regulars and drop-ins, an equal crack at the gas remains, and that also means the attendant can't provide other services for regulars, like wiping windshields, unless it's done for everyone. 21,000 gallons of oil went slicking into the Delaware River near New Jersey town of Paulsboro during the day. It happened when two tankers collided after one developed mechanical problems. The Coast Guard says it's thrown a containing boom around the spill and has things pretty well under control. The Commerce Department blames the energy crisis in part for a decline last month in the personal income of Americans. It was the first time in 19 months that the economic indicator had shown a downturn. But another key statistic, says Commerce, housing starts was up for the month, a hopeful sign. 83-year-old Mrs. Rose Kennedy, mother of the former president, has been admitted to a hospital in West Palm Beach, Florida. Doctors say she complained of persistent headaches and diagnostic tests will be conducted. Her condition is listed as fair, and her son, Senator Edward Kennedy, said tonight there is no sense of seriousness about the confinement. By Friday, Randolph Hearst hopes that the food distribution program he's instituting for California's poor will be underway, and he's called on the Symbionese Liberation Army to match his gesture of good faith by releasing his kidnapped daughter Patricia. The food plan will be run by an organization called Peoples in Need, headed by the Secretary of State of Washington State, Ludlow Kramer, who's had experience in a similar program to aid victims of layoffs in Washington's aerospace industry in 1971. Asked what standards would apply for qualification for the food under the California plan, Kramer replied,
"We don't have time for standards, sir. We want to feed people. And if people come in and say that they need help, we will give them help." In the state of Washington, the Neighbors in Need program did a survey that showed that less than 0.5% of those that came into a food bank program did not, in one way or another, desperately need that help. And so we believe that if people want help, desire help, that we will supply it. Our job is to get the food immediately and to start distributing that food immediately so that Patty Hearst can be returned.
So far, there's been no reaction from the kidnappers. The mechanics of the distribution program were worked out with representatives of 6 militant radical groups. CBS News continues after this.
Some research experts say you can't taste the difference between beers. Well, if they're right, then Anheuser-Busch wastes a barrel of time Beechwood aging Budweiser. Only they don't think so. Brewing beer right does make a difference. And they're betting a bundle that you can taste the difference in Bud. When it comes to brewing Budweiser, the Anheuser-Busch choice is to go all the way because they still care about quality. Look at it this way. If the Bud people have a choice between what some experts say and what beer drinkers say, well, you'd better believe they'll go with you beer drinkers every time. When you say Budweiser, you've said it all. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis.
Secretary of State Kissinger is off for Mexico in the morning for a major effort in Latin American diplomacy. He'll represent the U.S. at a 3-day meeting of Western Hemisphere foreign ministers, seeking what he called a new and more realistic approach in relations with other American nations. Tuesday, President Nixon announced that Kissinger will be back in the Middle East next week, this time seeking to effect a disengagement of forces agreement between Israel and Syria on the Golan Heights front. This is Christopher Glenn, CBS News.
The CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Welcome to the sounds of suspense, to the fear you can hear, to the terrifying world of the imagination. I'm your guide for a journey up a mysterious mountain. Dead Man's Mountain is what it's called. Going is really no problem. It's coming down that separates the living from the dead. Our mystery drama, Dead Man's Mountain was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Sam Dan and stars Alan Hewitt. R.J. Johnson sits at his desk. Yes, the R.J. Johnson. The mysterious, the remote R.J. Johnson. I better explain that. His ways are mysterious, except when his plans include you. He is remote, except when he wants something from you. Then his presence can become an overwhelming reality. Some say R.J. is the richest man in the world. Some say he's the second, the third, the fourth richest. Does it matter? All we need to know is that on this particular morning, R.J. Johnson sits at his desk, as usual, and is formulating plans to buy or sell what? An industry? A government? Somebody's soul?
Parker, I want us to maintain our short position on Consolidated Industries. It's bleeding down steadily, and we should help depress it a bit, too. No, I'm not afraid of anything like that. They won't get a government contract. We can see to it. Pick up National Computer and Starlight Oil. I want our full concentration on those three. I'll call you back later. Yes, Mrs. Dollard. Come in.
Mr. Johnson, George Morrissey is here.
And about time. I want hourly reports on Consolidated, National, and Starlight. See to it that Parker can always reach me. Now, have Morrissey come in.
But, sir, about Morrissey.
Is there a problem?
Well, I...
You were saying?
Perhaps I should have said...
Mrs. Dollard, are you all right?
Perhaps I should have said... There's a man outside who claims to be George Morrissey.
Mrs. Dollard, you know George Morrissey.
I thought I did.
If there's any doubt, check security.
I did.
Then that settles it. He could never hope to get past the lobby elevators if he weren't George Morrissey.
Mr. Johnson, maybe what I'm trying to say is... There's a man out there. And I don't want him to be George Morrissey.
Have him come in here.
Yes, sir. Mr. Johnson will see you now. Do you see what I mean, Mr. Johnson?
Mrs. Dollard, is this your idea of a practical joke? Who is this?
Please, R.J., don't yell at her. I can't stand noise.
George?
Yes, George.
You can't be George.
Look at me, R.J. Look at me.
I can't believe it.
You don't want to believe it.
What happened to you?
Please let me sit down.
He walked out of this office 3 weeks ago.
Yes, 3 weeks ago.
He was a man of 35. And now...
Now I know. I look in the mirror. I could be 75.
His hair is all white. He's wrinkled, stooped.
That's not the worst of it. I feel 75. I couldn't even walk without this cane.
George, the first thing you have to do is tell me exactly what happened.
I was at Manitou Mountain, getting the development deal set, and R.J., listen, we'll have to forget it. Give it up.
What are you saying?
I'm saying forget it. Look at what happened to me. They said, all the locals, they said, the mountain was haunted. Terrible things would happen to anyone who went up there.
Talk sense.
Can't you believe your eyes, R.J.? Look at what happened to me.
George, start at the beginning.
I couldn't get anyone to drive up the mountain road. So I hired a car. I drove it myself. I drove it up the mountain and...
Yes, and?
And that's all I remember, R.J. I must have passed out up there.
But something did happen.
It's like a nightmare. I can't bring it into focus. Just flashes of it. Terrible things.
Be specific. What kind of terrible things?
Shapes, forms, voices, saying I was going to die, that my life was falling away, that it was disappearing.
What kind of shapes? What sort of forms?
I don't know.
What size were they? What color?
I don't know.
You say voices. What kind? High, low?
R.J., I
were they
don't
men's
know.
voices? Women's?
I can't remember. I can't
Now, pull
remember.
yourself together.
Pull myself together. Look at me. I'm an old man. I've been robbed of half my life.
Now think. How long did you stay on the mountain?
I don't know. Somehow I managed to get the car turned around. I drove back to town. I found a doctor.
What's his name?
I don't know.
What did he say?
I can't remember. R.J., I came here to warn you. The mountain, it's haunted. It's cursed. Give up the project.
Mrs. Dollard, call Dr. Waterson.
No. Doctor can't help me anymore. But I can help you, R.J. Give it up. Give up the project.
Dr. Waterson? Yes. Keep him on fluids, and whatever you do, see that he remains absolutely calm. That was the resident.
About George?
No change in his condition.
Have you checked the local doctor? The one who saw him first?
Well, we called him. He reports he treated a man of about 70 for exhaustion.
That's all you could get out of him?
And that's all he had to say.
And what have you got to say, Doctor?
We find that George Morrissey has the physical signs of a man in his 70s.
But you know very well he is not in his 70s.
Chronologically, no. Medically, yes.
Is there a disease that could age a man so radically in so short a time?
I would say a man could be ravaged by some psychic or physical attack, but here we have no signs of trauma. His tissues, organs, nervous system, circulatory system, they show the deterioration that could only be caused by aging.
Let's cut through all this, Doctor. How did it happen?
We don't know.
You don't know. Am I supposed to buy this nonsense about a haunted mountain, curses, and all that?
I don't have the answer, R.J.
Waterson, over the years, I have contributed millions for medical research. I bought this whole hospital for you. So, are you telling me that now, when I need some answers, I'm not going to get anything for my money?
I'm telling you that we have no answers at this time.
Is it possible that George could be faking?
Why should he want to fake?
Answer my question.
The answer's no.
I want to see him.
He's very weak. Is it important?
I don't make unimportant requests.
Well, just for a minute or two at most. And please, don't excite him.
I won the club championship, and I was named third team All-America.
George.
Girls, you should see how the girls would fall all over me.
George, pay attention.
Huh? Oh, it's you, R.J. Listen.
No, George. Don't try to sit up.
But I've got to talk to R.J. Listen, R.J., are you listening?
I'm listening.
Here's what happens to you up there on the mountain. I remember, you see. Now I remember.
R.J., don't excite him,
I
please.
accept full responsibility.
Up there on that mountain, I was told you will lose that which you value most.
Told? You say told? How? By whom?
I don't know.
How can we get anywhere if you keep saying you don't know? Think.
R.J., I order you from this room.
He's going to die soon anyhow. We have to get that information.
R.J., I will call security and have the guards throw you out of here.
No, Doctor. No, leave us alone. This is between R.J. and me.
What were you told, George?
I wasn't really told. It was more like a kind of feeling, an idea that seemed to seep into me. And I realized the most important thing, what mattered most to me, was my body.
Talk sense.
I'm talking sense, R.J. And I began to lose my body.
What do you mean, lose your body?
The way you really lose it. To old age. Only, oh God,
Only I was losing it then and there. And all at once.
Is that what you think happened, Morrissey?
But look, I got away from there, you see. I got away just before I would have died. But why? I should have stayed. Look at me. What good am I now?
Be calm and practical, George. We have the greatest doctors in the world here. We'll beat this thing.
You can still beat it, R.J. You can still beat it. Just don't go near that mountain. Just give up the project.
You wanted me, Mr. Johnson?
Has Parker called while I was out?
Yes, sir. He reported in. Consolidated stock is still falling.
That's good.
National Computer is rising. And Starlight Oil is doing well with the new government.
Tell him to increase our holdings. Try 10%. Now, cancel the rest of today and all of tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Call Chuck Daly. I want him here in 3/4 of an hour.
Sir.
What is it?
Well, Chuck's about to leave for Florida. His daughter's getting married this afternoon.
Tell him he is to fly me up to the Manitou Mountain area.
But, Mr. Johnson,
Now, what is it, Mrs. Dollard?
you can't go up to Manitou Mountain.
Why not?
You saw what happened.
What did happen?
You saw George Morrissey.
About George Morrissey. Either he caught a disease...
But medical science doesn't know of such a disease.
Medical science is constantly being surprised. Obviously, someone does not want me to develop the Manitou Mountain Resort Complex. And perhaps they managed to buy George Morrissey.
But I would bet my life on George Morrissey.
You must never bet your life on anybody, Mrs. Dollard. The nearest town to Manitou Mountain is Lafayette Center. Reserve a room for me there at the motel.
But he is George Morrissey. Fingerprints, dental records.
Reserve it under the name R.J. Smith.
Mr. Johnson, are you going up there alone?
You know perfectly well, Mrs. Dollard, that the way to get something done is to do it yourself.
But isn't it dangerous for you to go?
Mrs. Dollard, I have complete freedom of action because, as you know very well, practically nobody on the outside has the faintest idea of what I look like.
How many days do you plan to spend with us, Mr. Smith?
Well, that all depends.
Oh? On what?
Do you suppose I could hire a car and driver?
Oh, let's see. I have some cards here. Pick out any name. Tell him Doris Evans over at the motel recommended you.
Do you mean I need a recommendation to hire a car?
Well, it's deer season. Can't expect a man to concentrate on his business.
I would think you can if you pay him and he recognizes his obligation.
Well, I can see you're a very serious-minded person, Mr. Smith. What brings you up to our frivolous part of the world?
I intend to do some sightseeing.
Sightseeing?
I hear you have some very beautiful country.
Oh, yes, we do have a lot of very beautiful country up here. Wild, unspoiled. And we aim to keep it that way, too.
Tell me, is there a doctor in town?
Oh, I hope nothing's wrong. I wouldn't want you to get sick on us while you're here.
No, I should just be checked every now and then.
Oh, well, we do have Doc Stallings.
Does he have office hours now?
His office hours are when he's not hunting or fishing. But I think he'd give up a chance at a 12-point buck for you.
Why?
Well, he doesn't get an opportunity like this every day.
To do what?
To treat the world-famous R.J. Johnson.
I see. How did you know
I'm sorry. Really, I shouldn't have given it away. After all, if you want to call yourself Mr. Smith, we should indulge that little conceit.
But how did you know?
Mr. Johnson, the whole town knows you're up here. Why, we've all been waiting for you.
We've all been waiting. Waiting for what reason? Had they also been waiting for George Morrissey? And George was only R.J. Johnson's hired man. We'll be back shortly with Act 2. One of the world's wealthiest men sits in the tiny lobby of a small motel in an out-of-the-way village somewhere in the Adirondacks. And suddenly he feels that all of his money and power somehow seem to be very far away at this anxious moment.
You say the whole town's been waiting for me, Mrs. Evans?
Yes, we've been waiting.
Why?
Well, you own us now.
I own you.
In a manner of speaking. You own all the land that surrounds this village.
I would think of myself as more of a neighbor.
Well, we don't think your plans for the area will make you a good neighbor.
You had your chance to protest against the project at the hearing.
And we did.
And after the legislature weighed all the pros and cons, they acted in the interests of the entire state, not your narrow provincial prejudices.
You really believe that, don't you?
I certainly do.
Well, we know why certain votes went a certain way.
Oh, do you? Suppose you tell me.
We know there was bribery and pressure.
Really? None of this was found by the special prosecutor's office.
Well, I must admit, though, I admire your courage.
My courage?
To come up here, all alone, without your thugs.
Oh, just a minute, Mrs. Evans.
Oh, they have clean fingernails, excellent manners, college degrees. But they help you to steal and cover your tracks. In that sense, they're no better than common thugs.
You really believe that, don't you? Now, let me set you straight. I have never done anything illegal.
Oh, you can't be serious.
No court has ever found me guilty of any crime.
Congratulations.
But here's what I am guilty of. Success. And this has earned me the envy and the hatred of millions of people. But that's human nature. I understand that. What I don't understand is the attitude of the people in this town. I'm not taking anything from you. I'm going to make every one of you rich. Can't you believe it?
Oh, yes. We believe it.
Do you have any idea how property values in this town will skyrocket when the development is here?
Yes, indeed.
Then why is everybody so unhappy?
You know, you remind me of my husband. My late husband, that is.
In what way?
He was an unsuccessful version of you. He also worshipped money. But he didn't know how to make it.
Now, what happened to your husband?
He went up to what your investment brochure calls Manitou Mountain. Dead Man's Mountain, we call it around here, and it killed him.
How could the mountain kill him?
It's an old Indian legend. Unless your conscience is completely clear, that mountain will kill you. Well, it killed poor Sidney Evans, rest his soul.
Killed him? How?
He was discovered at the foot of it. He was completely shriveled.
There must be an explanation.
Doc Stallings never found it. He just wrote it up as death due to causes unknown.
Stallings is, after all, only a country doctor.
That's right, he is. Tell me, how do your high-powered city doctors explain Mr. Morrissey?
Who you know about Mr. Morrissey?
Oh, the whole town knows about Mr. Morrissey. Poor Mr. Morrissey, he went up there. Something he had no business doing.
I must correct that. He had every business doing it. He was my agent inspecting my property on orders from me.
But the fact is, he went up there, and the mountain got him.
Have other people met with mysterious results after climbing that mountain?
Oh, very few and far between. We may be just country folk up here, but we learn from experience.
Are you Dr. Stallings?
Well, look who's here.
They said you'd be out fishing.
Well, that's never a bad guess, but it takes two, and the trout won't play.
I'd like to talk to you.
Sure.
I'm willing to pay you for a consultation.
Oh, I intend to charge you.
Well?
Well, what?
Well, aren't you going to come up here out of the water?
Well, you see, I got my eye out for a certain brown trout. So you just tell me your symptoms, and I'll decide whether I have to examine you.
An employee of mine. You treated him recently. George Morrissey.
Oh, him.
What happened to George Morrissey?
Well, I met him at the motel. It was a Thursday night. I go there for dinner whenever Doris Evans serves pot roast. Heck, you're lucky. She's having it tonight.
About Mr. Morrissey.
Oh, he was a serious kind of fellow. Not like you. Same no-nonsense, let's get right down to it attitude.
I'm only interested in what happened to Morrissey.
Happened? Well, he wanted to hire somebody to drive him up to Dead Man's Mountain.
And nobody would do it.
That's That's right.
Why?
Well, you've been told why by now, I'm sure.
I'm asking you why.
I'll tell you the same thing.
That's impossible.
Why is it impossible? Oh, I see what you're thinking. It's all right for the simple-minded hicks up here to swallow that superstitious nonsense, but me, I'm a doctor. A product of a highly sophisticated, specialized education.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Well, think again, because I believe it too.
There has to be a reasonable, logical, rational explanation for what happened to George Morrissey.
Well, there is. He offended the spirit of the mountain.
Oh, you consider that reasonable, logical, rational?
Would you feel better if I said there's something up in that mountain, a virus, a bacillus, a fungus, which somehow causes immediate aging?
It would be a more rational explanation.
You mean more acceptable?
I want to know what you believe, and I'll pay you for it.
I believe the evidence. If you go up there, you can die.
But why?
Because a great spirit lives up there, and he values his privacy.
That's impossible.
I saw George Morrissey at dinner one night. A vigorous, athletic-looking man in his 30s. I saw him again the following evening. A broken old man, half dead.
And you explain it with this half-baked legend.
Well, how do your city doctors with all their modern facilities explain it? Your Dr. Watterson, a world-famous diagnostician, he called me. He asked me.
This thing has to be cleared up.
Why? What's wrong with a nice, quiet mystery?
If word of this becomes general, it can destroy the entire project.
Aha. Is that bad?
Millions of people will be deprived of an opportunity to enjoy healthful recreation in a fresh country environment.
But it won't be fresh country, you see. You'll have superhighways and smoke and noise and honky-tonk resorts.
I'm convinced that you people are up to something.
Well, you tell me what?
I don't know. But I assure you, I have the resources to find out.
Well, if you ever do, let me know.
Well, did you find Doc Stallings?
My secretary should have called me on the hour.
Oh, she did. We serve dinner till 9:30, but the best time to eat's around 6. From then on, it's leftovers.
I'll have a sandwich sent up to my room.
Oh, you're joking.
I don't tell jokes.
You mean all you want for dinner is a sandwich?
Mrs. Evans, food is merely fuel. The body is just a machine, and so my tastes are very simple.
Whom do rich men think they impress when they say they have simple tastes? Do you have a wife?
I never married.
Oh? Well, so far we've eliminated wine and women. I can see by looking at you that there isn't too much song. Oh, what do you do with all your money?
I make it grow.
Well, whatever you do, don't go up that mountain.
I don't think I need any more advice from anyone around here. I would like to place a call to New York.
You go up that mountain, and when you come down, you'll be penniless.
You have my secretary's number there. Please put it through.
Just remember, I told you.
It's exactly 5 minutes past 4, Mrs. Dollard.
I know that, sir.
Why haven't you heard from Parker?
I'm expecting a call any moment.
Any moment was not his orders. I specifically directed him to report on the hour.
Yes, sir.
Why is there a delay?
I don't know.
Well, find out.
Mr. Johnson, I'm only human.
What did you say, Mrs. Dollard? Mrs. Dollard? Operator? Operator! Now, see here, Mrs. Evans.
Oh, Mr. Johnson, I was just trying to reach your room.
I've been cut off in the middle of a crucial telephone call.
Carlotta, the phone company operator, she just told me that we can't get through to New York for a bit.
What are you saying?
Well, you've seen those signs along the roads. Look out for falling rocks. Well, we just had a pretty good slide on Route 640.
But I must talk to New York.
A lot of wires are down, but Ed Bailey and his boys will have it fixed before long. Oh, Hi, Doc.
Hello, Doris. And why does the celebrated R.J. Johnson look so agitated?
Well, he can't make a phone call.
Oh, my. You know, Mr. Johnson, as a physician, I have a prescription that could keep you healthy and happy for years.
Doctor, I'm in no mood for your folksy philosophy. I have to make a phone call.
Don't you want to hear my prescription?
How long will it take to repair the lines?
No, maybe an hour.
An hour?
Maybe less.
I would prescribe the following. Chuck it all, Mr. Johnson. Give it up, settle down here, and marry Doris.
Oh, I'm not sure I'd want to marry him, Doc.
I'm not out to marry anybody.
Oh, why not?
What's going on in this town? Are you people crazy? Where's the police station?
The police station?
Well, we do have a sheriff.
Send for him.
What do you want the sheriff for?
There has to be some kind of plot. Where can I find the sheriff?
Oh, you don't have to find him. He's coming in the door right now. Hi, Elwood.
Evening, folks.
A gentleman here wants to see you, Elwood.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff, I need your help.
That's what we're here for, sir.
My name is R.J. Johnson.
Pleased to meet you.
Sheriff, these people are trying to...
Yes, sir?
These people are out to do me harm.
Which people?
Among others, these two.
Yeah, but Doc Stallings here is the greatest guy you'd ever hope to meet. Matter of fact, he takes care of me. And I personally vouch for Doris. She's my sister.
A very nice, tidy little town. And the natives are so friendly and obliging, and so concerned with your well-being. But right now, R.J. Johnson feels overwhelmed by their solicitude, as if he is being literally killed with kindness. We'll return shortly with Act 3. Are the people of Lafayette Center the kindly, generous-hearted folks they seem to be? Or is this a place of evil, where death waits for strangers, especially a wealthy stranger like R.J. Johnson?
How are these good people out to harm you, Mr. Johnson?
I don't know, Sheriff, but something is going on. And I demand protection until I can get some of my own people up here.
You got to appreciate my position, Mr. Johnson. There's nothing I can do unless you make a choice.
Well, we're only trying to help him, Elwood. You see, I look at this man's face, and I hear the tension in his voice, and I see his color, you know? So I say to him, change your way of life. Settle down up here. Is that harming him?
Well, it doesn't seem like it.
I recommend a more regular routine.
And we both keep warning him, stay away from Dead Man's Mountain.
Mr. Johnson, you couldn't get better advice from your best friends.
Well, now I see how this works. A little bit of psychological warfare.
Doc, what's he talking about?
I'll tell you what I'm talking about. For reasons best known to yourselves, you people are determined to keep strangers at a distance.
Oh, we'd only be too happy if more folks would move up here.
And so you invented this nonsense about a cursed and haunted mountain.
But why?
You know why, Sheriff. Because to any man of intelligence and courage, it presents a challenge. But before a man goes up there, you prepare him.
Well, gentlemen, you can stay and listen to all this. I've got to serve dinner.
By all means, Mrs. Evans. We can continue this discussion at the table.
Oh? I thought all you wanted was a sandwich.
Oh, no. Tonight, I'm having all the trimmings.
Here you are, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Pot roast, mashed potatoes, peas and carrots.
Now, that's a cure for whatever ails you.
Hold on. Dr. Stallings, change plates with me, please.
Why? It's the same portion.
Except I always give you a little bit less, Doc.
Would you mind changing plates, Doctor?
No, not if you tell me why.
Since I'm going up to the mountain, there could be something in this food. A drug, perhaps.
Oh, I like that.
Very well, Mr. Johnson. Here, have it your way.
You say you're going up the mountain?
Yes.
After all we told you?
I'm going up that mountain to prove that it's just an ordinary piece of undeveloped country real estate.
Can you stop him?
Why does everybody want to stop me?
Well, look what it did to your Mr. Morris.
Suppose, for the sake of argument, there is something dangerous up there, and it gets me. Isn't that to your interest? Without me, there can't be a development project.
Well, we have a more basic interest. We have obligations as human beings.
Well, now, I will need a car. There's a road, I assume.
Oh, yes, sir. Leads up to the top.
But why go now? At night?
Because the word should get around. R.J. Johnson drove up this dead man's mountain, as you call it, in the dead of night, and just as calmly drove down again.
But, Mr. Johnson,
You
really...
have something to learn, Mrs. Evans. You think a man becomes rich through trickery, violence, and all manner of illegal, immoral, and unethical acts.
I never said that.
But you believe it. Tonight, you're going to discover how I became rich. By daring to do what other people consider impossible. It's that simple.
I would still advise you to keep away from that mountain.
Does the spirit of the mountain, going along with the legend, kill everyone whose conscience is not clear? Very well. I'm safe. My conscience is unblemished.
Elwood, I still think you should stop him.
The sheriff has no right to interfere. I'm merely inspecting my own property.
No, he's right, Doris.
A little exercise in morality here. Who would care to accompany me? You look down on. You are the pillars of virtue. You mean there isn't a clear conscience among the three of you?
I'll drive you.
Doris.
Doris, what do you say?
He's challenged us.
But, Doris, you know you can't fight the mountain.
Well, we can't let somebody else get killed up there either.
Well, what can you do?
Well, at the first sign of anything suspicious, I can turn the car around. Mr. Johnson, you've got yourself a driver, and I suggest we leave right now. The moon goes down early around here.
First I have to call New York.
But the lines are still down.
How do you know?
Carlotta will let us know when they're fixed.
Maybe I'd better wait.
Oh, don't tell me you're starting to have second thoughts.
I have some very important things to check out.
Well, we can drive to the top of the mountain and back again in an hour.
How do you know? Have you done it before?
No, it's just a guess. And I'm ready if you are. Well?
What is it, Mrs. Evans?
Well, we're here. We're at the foot of Dead Man's Mountain. And there, you see, on your right, is the dirt road that leads upward.
How far?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, what are we waiting for?
You won't change your mind, Mr. Johnson?
No.
I still don't understand why you have to do this.
This is another reason why I'm a rich man. I buy stock nobody else believes in. I finance schemes other people think are harebrained. I back men no one else will work with. And I climb mountains everyone else is scared by.
I'm climbing this mountain, too.
Then you also deserve to be rich.
Well, do we go ahead or do we turn back?
One must always go ahead, Mrs. Evans.
Then, here goes.
How do you feel, Mrs. Evans?
All right. I guess.
You guess?
How do you feel?
I don't have to guess. I know. I feel great. It should be interesting.
What?
Let's assume all you people are right. This mountain is haunted by a great spirit who strikes down all who have guilt. Which one of us do you suppose he'll strike down?
Well, I don't have a guilty conscience.
I wonder about that. I heard the doctor say you had a weakness for men with problems. Your late husband, maybe he didn't have problems. Maybe you had the problems.
Well, we all have problems.
Stop for a moment.
What's the matter?
I think I heard somebody.
I haven't heard a sound.
Listen.
R.J., I'll have the
security guards throw you out of here.
It's Waterson. It's Dr. Waterson. What's he doing up here?
Who's Dr. Waterson?
He's looking after George Morrissey.
I'll throw you out of here.
Did you hear him?
There's no one around but you and me.
Now that I think of it, that's a strange way for Waterson to talk to me. He would never have the guts to say that unless he knew something.
Look, I think we'd better turn around.
No. I think I'm learning something. Waterson, do you know that Waterson is Parker's son-in-law?
Oh, who's Parker?
My administrative assistant. He executes all my orders. Suppose Consolidated Industries is not going down. Suppose it's starting to go up. Suppose Parker is still holding.
Oh, come on, Mr. Johnson. Just relax. Now, if it's too much for you up here, let's turn back.
Tell me, Mrs. Evans, how did you know I'd be here?
Well, we just assumed.
No one told you.
Who would tell us?
A pilot. My pilot.
I didn't even know you had one.
He may have been put out because I made him fly me here on his daughter's wedding day.
Oh? Well, that really wasn't nice.
I pay him enough, but he didn't tell you.
No.
Listen.
I don't hear anything.
Just listen.
I'm only human, Mr. Johnson. I'm only human.
Why would she answer me like that if she didn't know something?
I don't hear a thing, Mr. Johnson.
I'm only human. Let me tell you about her. She's quiet. She's almost mousy. But she's ambitious. I can tell. I've made her a rich woman. She's in on it. She's in on it, too. She and Parker and Morrissey. They worked it out. And you're in on it, too.
Me?
They wanted me out of the way. And so all of you got together. You worked up this phony scheme.
Look, we're going to turn back.
Answer the phone.
What phone?
Answer it. Hello. Hello.
Mr. Johnson, I have the latest quote on Consolidated. It's going up.
It can't go up.
It's gone up 5 points so far.
Get Parker. Close it out. Close it out.
I can't find Parker.
Get him. Get him. Mrs. Dollard. Mrs. Dollard.
Who are you talking to?
My secretary. She hung up on me.
How could she hang up? There's no phone.
Consolidated is going up.
But there's no stock market at night.
Mr. Johnson, it's going crazy. National Computer is going down.
Have Parker sell at once.
I can't find Parker.
Mrs. Dollard. Mrs. Dollard. She's gone again.
Listen to me, Mr. Johnson. Please, listen.
Do you know how much money I've lost so far?
Please, listen. You have nothing to be afraid of. It's just a legend. Who can be sure it's true? Oh, sure, we local people push it to scare away developers.
I feel weak. As if I lost a lot of blood.
Listen, you're R.J. Johnson. You're not to be taken in with this superstitious nonsense. Fight it off.
I can't. I'm trying. But all my strength is going. My money. It's disappearing.
Your money isn't your strength.
It is. I have nothing else. Please, answer the phone for me. I can hardly lift the receiver.
The rebel government just nationalized Starlight Oil.
What did you say? Mrs. Dollard. Mrs. Dollard.
Mr. Johnson, we're leaving.
What? It happened. Everything I was afraid of happened. Consolidated went up. National went down. And Starlight...
Nothing happened. It's all your imagination. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson. Talk to me. Mr. Johnson.
There isn't a mark or a sign on him. It's as if all the force and vital energy just left his body.
Well, maybe it's all for the best. He was in trouble.
Trouble?
It was on the news. Some of his holdings went haywire for some reason. 3 big companies. He's out millions. He may have died just in time.
The mountain. The mountain.
What about the mountain?
It's true. Every word we say about it. It's true.
Oh, come on, sis. How can it be true?
The mountain killed him. It took away his money.
Doris, are you all right?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I wonder. What did it do to me?
Well, what did it do to Doris? Everybody loses what he values most up on Dead Man's Mountain, as the saying goes. Maybe Doris had fallen in love with R.J., and thus the mountain robbed her, too. I'll be back shortly. Haunted mountains. Did this one cause certain stocks to go up and down one day recently? It certainly seems no more far-fetched than some of the explanations people have for the market. The cast in our exercise in The Extraordinary included Alan Hewitt, Bryna Rayburn, William Redfield, and Robert Dryden. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
Friendly music station, KIXI, dial 91 AM, Seattle.
KIXI time is 12 midnight.
CBS News. A Democratic senator wants to crack down on the oil industry, bringing it under strict control of the federal government. This is Doug Poling reporting on the CBS radio network. Senator Henry Jackson, Democrat of Washington, says he will propose this week legislation requiring major American oil companies be chartered by the federal government. Jackson says oil companies do have the right to earn money, but he adds he cannot understand why American oil prices have gone up along with foreign prices.
I'm for reasonable, sensible, fair profits that will help provide for economic growth and provide jobs and provide the kind of income that is needed for new investment. But I must say that it is unconscionable what is going on when the price of oil is permitted to go up from a little over $3 a barrel. I'm talking about right here in the United States now, not foreign oil, to the Arab oil cartel price of $10.35 a barrel.
Jackson also says administration energy policies have driven working men to the unemployment lines and sent the oil companies to the bank with bloated profits. Senator Jacob Javits, Republican of New York, says he plans to introduce legislation to reestablish a balance of power between the president and Congress. Javits told why he thinks such legislation is needed.
I believe that in the last 30 years, the Congress has allowed a great many of its powers to atrophy, and the President has caused a great deal of his power to grow, and that this has created a very serious imbalance as between the Congress and aside from its moral implications, I think Watergate was a symbol of that kind of political decadence, because the president simply built up so much power that he began to lose his sense of proportion, respecting amenability and accountability to the law.
Javits says that presidential direction, which Congress sought, has been going too far toward the road of presidential dictation. About 6,500 persons gathered in Washington Saturday for an Impeach Nixon rally. Another rally against the president was held in Los Angeles. That one drew a crowd of about 1,000. Vice President Ford told a Republican gathering in Tulsa, Oklahoma Saturday night that he thinks President Nixon will be completely exonerated of all the charges against him. Ford also said he believes that President Nixon is respected as president and as leader of the Republican Party. Admiral Elmo Zumwalt, the chief of naval operations, says he thinks the United States is losing ground to the Soviet Union in the fight to maintain military parity with the Russians. In a speech in New Orleans, Admiral Zumwalt says American military spending is declining while the Soviets are building up both their naval and their merchant marine fleets. Admiral Zumwalt says the American defense budget is now the smallest since 1950. Governor George Wallace of Alabama says again he thinks the 1972 attempt on his life was part of a conspiracy with outside financial backing. Only one man, Arthur Bremer, was charged in the shooting of Wallace, but the Alabama governor says he wonders how Bremer could travel around the country, buy 2 guns and a car, rent limousines, and stay in expensive hotels. Wallace says Bremer hardly made $40 a week in his life. Wallace says it in an interview with Parade magazine. Doug Poling, CBS News.